Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Shawn. And last week we finished up our top 100. And as we said while we were doing it, we were going to think about it a little bit afterwards. And we have done that. And we really want to talk about just a few of the ones that we missed, that we totally just blanked on, left off. A few of the ones we think each other missed that were on our lists, as well as looking ahead at the stuff we think might be on next year that maybe we haven't even played yet.
So, to start things off, looking at this year's list compared to last year's, I think both of our lists changed about a third between years, which is interesting. So, some of the new ones we've played definitely made it on, moved some other ones out as well. So, let's crack on to our honorable mentions. What games do you wish you maybe put on your list?
My honorable mentions are a mix of stuff I dropped the ball on and stuff that I actually picked up because it took us, I don't know, 6-7 weeks or something to do our top 100. So we of course bought a few games in that, and there are a few in that I was like, I should have got this for sure. So my top 5 are Planet Unknown, Dice Throne, Red Cathedral, Living Forest, and Silver and Gold. And I'll just explain those real quick here. So Dice Throne and Planet Unknown, both of those we got while we were doing it. Planet Unknown, I could see being top 20 next year. Planet Unknown is phenomenal, and we've played it like 17 times. Dice Throne, we've played 30 times in a month. So obviously, we really like that one. Living Forest, I missed just because I only play it on BGA because Jess doesn't like it as much as I do. But I have played it a lot. Silver and Gold, I just somehow forgot about. There was like 50 last year. And then Red Cathedral, also I just kind of forgot about. But then we picked up the expansion while we were doing it, and that made it way better as well. So all 4 of those, I totally dropped the ball.
For mine, I have a couple crossovers with yours. So the crossovers for honorable mentions are Dice Throne and Planet Unknown because exactly of what you said. Other ones I have is Nemesis. I had Nemesis really high last time, and it fell just out of my 100, but I think I probably should have included it. It's just our past 2 times we played it, I think we had a pretty tough matchup in terms of the characters we were, and so it didn't quite make the list, but it probably should have been on there. Seven Wonders Duel, I was so on the fence with Seven Wonders Architects or Seven Wonders Duel. Maybe they both should have been on it. Maybe Duel should have been on it instead. And then Zuli, in terms of like looking back at this past year, it's been a super fun game for us to play. We've played it tons. It's this great little indie designer, publisher about trying to draft animals and put them into habitats. And I have a lot of fun with it. And we've played it tons in the past year.
All right, so there's our honorable mentions, but now let's talk about our ones that moved up our lists the most this year.
My top 5 climbers from last year are Architects of the West Kingdom, Near and Far, Res Arcana, Unlock, and Carcassonne. And Architects was the biggest climber. It jumped 73 spots.
And then my list is super similar to your list, but I got a couple different because I've also got Hadrian's Wall and Viticulture. But still, I also have Architects, Res Arcana, and Carcassonne in my list as well. And Architects, my biggest jumper. And I'm not surprised by that because we got 2 new expansions for Architects, and both of those added just a bunch of different cards, a bunch of different ways to play, different ways to use the cathedral, and they just made it better for 2 players.
Yeah, and I think another one that did that as well is Res Arcana because the expansions added a whole new resource, which for a game that keeps everything really simple, having those pearls just makes such a kind of a game changer.
But we don't necessarily need expansions. Expansions always help because they're like, oh yeah, we have this game, right? I remember that game. But there are some like Carcassonne for sure, even though we did pick up expansions for that and for Viticulture. But I feel like for Carcassonne especially, it was just like we just remembered about it. It was one that brought me into the hobby, and I was just like, oh yeah, Carcassonne. And then once we played it again, like, oh, this holds up. This is really good still. But then let's talk about the stuff that maybe dropped a little bit that we love a little less this year than last year. So my biggest losers, or droppers, I guess is the nicer way to say that, but they are Unfair, Railroad Inc., Parks, Viscounts of the West Kingdom, and Tricarian. And all of those are games that I like still. I think I don't know why. I think Unfair, we picked up a lot of other kind of theme parky games over the last year, so maybe that just fell into the mix. Parks is because we played it totally wrong one time, and for some reason that like put me off it. It's so not the game's fault. It was just a weird experience with the game, and we haven't played it a lot since. And Viscounts, I got a feeling, is going to shoot all the way back up again because any of my problems with it got fixed by the 2 expansions that just came out.
Well, my 5 droppers were Takenoko, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Underwater Cities, Red Rising, and Scythe. And again, I also still really like these. I think Takenoko, I've come to realize, there is that opportunity of being able to just be lucky with getting a card on your last turn that happens to fit the layout. That is like a little bit less strategy, but I still love it. It was one of the first games that we got in the hobby. And I think Quacks as well. I think we just played a lot of Quacks and we just haven't played as much of it in the past year.
And it's one of those kind of comfort games. And I think between 2 castles, it's just a lot easier to set up. So when we want a comfort game, we just want to like, we're feeling lazy already.
Yeah, it is much easier. Scythe, I probably have it too low, but when we finished the campaign and having played it a lot of 4 players, it was really high last year. But we haven't played it with more than 2, I don't think, since then.
And this is the ones that were on one of our lists but weren't on the other one, or were higher on one of our lists. Just ones we think the other person maybe dropped the ball on. So go ahead, sock it to me.
Yes, and so number 1 with a bullet on my list for that is Rajas, which I had at 18, and you didn't have on your list at all. I also have Jaipur, which I had much higher than you. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. We have so much fun playing that. You had it way lower. Sonora. And then another one is Trails of Tucana as well.
So Trails of Tucana, I love Trails of Tucana. Yeah, I don't know where I had that on my list, but it's so tricky with the roll-and rights because I wanted to put more roll-and rights, but then you're like, are these enough of games? Are these as good of games? Like, how much thinking goes into these games versus these other? There's always this thing of you want to put the heavier games, like you want to put those at the top of the list, and then the lighter games end up getting moved down lists like this. And I don't know if that's fair, if that's just, it's something to think about anyway. The other one's Harry Potter. We finished all the legacy stuff, so I haven't thought about it. I like it. It's great, but I haven't thought about it in like a year. So there you go. No, I make no apologies there. Jaipur I love, but Jess always beats me at. So I think that's probably it. And Rajas, that is very much, Rajas is a few. So I've been thinking about this one because that is my biggest dropper that fell off of my list for sure. And I really liked it last year. I would actually suggest Rajas to the right people. I just am not sure I'm the right people. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, Jess always beats me at it. And there are games that you always beat me at that I still like Fields of Arle. I'm like, I just had a fun time farming. But Rajas feels competitive. And when I'm done, I'm like, oh, like that sucked. I wish I won that. But also because it is so dice heavy, I have a bad habit of, in a dicey game, instead of kind of spreading out my options so that I can roll different things and I'll be fine. I'm like, I drive towards one thing. So I'm like, I'm going to get 2s. I'll get 2s. And then I definitely will not get them. And then I got to do that mitigate thing. But then Jess has seen I want 2s and she's mean. So she'll take that spot right now. Then I'm just moving up that river forever and ever and ever. And I don't know. It doesn't connect with me as much. Maybe I'm being a sore loser. Maybe if I win a few, I'm gonna love it again. I don't know, but that is certainly not to suggest that it's not good, because it is. It's very good. It's just me and Rajas just aren't connecting this last year.
You put all of your hopes and dreams on getting specific roles that you get so grumpy if you don't get those specific roles.
So then for me, the ones that you were missing, and there are some big ones here: Feast for Odin, Paladins of the West Kingdom, Prodigals Club, Santa Monica, although I get that because the box is way too big, and I totally concede that point. Unmatched, and then Root, which was, so those 5 you just didn't have at all. And then Root was 80 lower on my list than your list, but honestly, I did expect that one a little bit too.
So I don't know. I think there's a mix of reasons for all of those. For Feast for Odin, I do really like it. It came pretty close, but I know I like it a lot less than you. And I think that's because for European games that involve farming or agriculture, I mean, this one's a Viking one, so it's a little bit different. But my favorite part is having the physical, like animal meeples and the physical resources. And in Feast for Odin, this has been all abstracted to just be these tiles, and you're laying the tiles out to cover this board, which is just filled with negative points. So it feels so daunting to start with tons of negatives that you just have to hope to be positives by the end. So it doesn't quite connect with me as much as some of Uwe Rosenberg's other games.
That's fair enough. And then Prodigal's Club, though. Prodigal's Club is so quirky and fun.
I love the theme of Prodigal's Club. I think it's really interesting, but there's something that I find stressful about having to manage those two tracks, because I start doing really, really well and getting one track down and then realize, oh shoot, I've left this other one. Do I have enough turns to get this one down? And there's something about that balancing act that is just a little bit stressful.
That is fair, because it can feel like you're almost playing two games. Like you have to play two separate board games at the same time. And when we do all three Prodigals Club, like you're playing three different board games at the same time, you've got to be like a chess prodigy to be able to balance all of that out. All right, but let's get back to the positive stuff and talk about 5 games we think for 2023 will be maybe in our top 100.
So the 5 I chose, one was Frosthaven. That makes sense because I had Gloomhaven, I think, is my number 2. Really excited for that. Wayfarers of the South Tigris, which is a Shem Phillips game. We really enjoy the West Kingdom series, and so I think this one, I can't imagine it not making the list, but don't know much about it and haven't played it yet. Ottawa, which is another Uwe Rosenberg game, but this one does have meeples and it has bat meeples, so totally sold on it. Starship Captains, we've gotten really into Star Trek recently, and so just kind of, it seems like it's a not IP version of it by CGE, published by CGE. Seems really interesting. And then Revive looks super interesting, so this is one I'm really looking forward to picking up.
So my 5, I cheated a little bit because I saw your 5 before we did this, and I wanted to do different ones because almost 100% of those, Ottawa with the Fruit Bats, Starship Captains, we got just weirdly into Star Trek during the pandemic. And Revive, those guys, Trails of Tucana and Riverside, were both great, so I'm really interested to see what they do with a heavier game. But the 5 I went with were Wayfarers, which I had to do because Shem Phillips, I think I had 5 of his games on my list. It's almost a sure thing. And then The Village, which that's the one I'm cheating on because we did play it once at a board game cafe, but we haven't owned it, and I've been waiting for the big box version, and that I believe comes out next year. So I'm expecting big things. Ahoy, Leader Games just do such a great job with asymmetry, and I love asymmetry. Woodcraft, Vladimir Succi, always a sure thing. And then Great Western Trail Argentina. Great Western Trail Argentina. First of all, I'm gonna sing that every time we play it, and I love Great Western Trail. The only question I have is, will it be different enough from Great Western Trail that they both warrant spots on the list just next year? I don't know. From looking at it, I'm on the fence. I don't know. I may end up cheating and pushing those two together into a spot, but it looks really cool.
I am interested in some of the ones on your list, particularly Woodcraft looks really interesting. I think it takes place in a forest and you're manipulating these dice, but anything forest based, and I'm on board.
And all my dad does is woodwork, so we hear about it a lot. So it'll be interesting to have a game that fits into that too.
So you'll have to stay tuned for almost a year from now and see if any of the ones that we mentioned actually do end up on our list.
I'm betting it's 90%. I bet one of these we're like, not so much, but the other 9 are going to be surefires, and I'm betting that Great Western Trail ends up. If I can cheat and smush things together and just I'll do it. So that is it. That is everything that we wanted to say about that. We thought it was interesting to take a look back. Maybe you did too. If you didn't, I hope you just skip this video and just watch our, why put yourself through it? But we'll probably come back next year with another top 100. I would think we have a lot of fun looking at it. And it's kind of a nice way to just check in with where we're at right now with games for ourselves, and hopefully you guys find it interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Maybe watching some of our top 100. Maybe this is the only video that you watched for it, which is fine as well. So if you can please like, subscribe, all of that helps us out, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one.